Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now today, man, we got to get into it. Listen, we already know what's dominating the headlines all up in the news cycle. Israel versus Hamas, Israel versus Palestine. And like I mentioned in my previous videos, the same people that you see on social media twerking for the Arabs, making it clap for the Arabs, they do not have the same passion and energy for the geopolitical situation of their own people. They don't. But they'll tell you that we got to stand with the Arabs. Whatever, man. Whatever. You can stand with the Arabs. I'm standing with my folks, man. But today we're going to talk about Captain Ibrahim Traore out of Burkina Faso. Because just like Dr. Umar said in his statement regarding the entire Israel-Palestine conflict, I dropped a video on that last night, check it out. Dr. Umar Johnson had said he was amazed how interested black people become when other groups are faced with genocide and hardship, but they do next to nothing to help their own people faced with similar circumstances. And it was so crazy because I got a crazy comment, an outrageous comment on that video last night, man. Just an outrageous comment. This dude came, I gotta find it, bro. I gotta find it, man. It was so out of pocket, and it really just drove my point home to the fact that y'all really just want to tap dance for the Arabs. That's all this is about. This dude came into my comment section and said, the lessons we could take from this tragedy is the Palestinians haven't given up fighting. Their resistance is a lesson for the black man. And I responded to the comment and I said, I'm going to take lessons from the Africans in the Sahel fighting against the French before I take lessons from a dusty... Listen, I don't want to... Listen, I'm trying to keep it diplomatic, man. I'm trying to keep it respectful, but you know, yeah. But anyways, let's get into it. Now, in case you've been living under a rock or you just only follow the mainstream news cycle, the conflict that you see happening between Israel and Palestine, there's been a similar conflict happening in the Sahel in Africa over the past few years, actually, between the Western powers, France in particular, and nations such as Mali, Burkina Faso, and now most recently, Niger, all of whom have overthrew their Western-backed governments and have ejected the French military, French media, etc., French ambassadors, French military away from the country. They have been kicked out the country. But for some reason, all these folks waving the Palestinian flags on social media, twerking and busting it open for the Arabs and things like that, and talking about we got to stand against oppression, we got to stand against the colonizer. All of a sudden, they never had the same energy, never had the same passion. You never seen it on the big screen. You never seen it worldwide all over the TV until recently. And now everybody and their mama is a revolutionary talking about we got to stand with Palestine. And now listen, maybe I missed it. I didn't get the memo. Perhaps I was absent that day. But apparently there is some type of geopolitical alliance between black men and Arab men. I didn't know that. I'll be honest with you, bro. I didn't know that. Apparently, black men and Arab men are geopolitical allies standing against the quote-unquote white man, right? So I didn't know that. I didn't know that the Arabs were standing side by side with the black. I didn't know that. They informed me in the past couple weeks that Arabs are our geopolitical allies standing in the so-called fight for freedom. But anyways, let's get back into the subject of today. We got to talk about the homie in Burkina Faso. Captain Ibrahim Traore. As you already know, in case you didn't know, yes, he came to power sometime about a year ago. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is the youngest head of state walking the planet currently as we speak. Most definitely the youngest head of state in Africa, at least. And while y'all busy twerking and tap dancing for the Arabs, this black man is on the front lines leading his troops in the battle as a head of state. Yes, the African warrior king archetype is in full effect in 2023. Let's get into it. Take a look up on the screen. As you can see, Captain Ibrahim Traore was part of a perilous mission with his men. There were mines almost everywhere, and thanks to their radar, they could detect terrorist bases and destroy them from kilometers with the artillery. The captain said that he set off with his men, not as a proof of bravery, but to let the commanders know that they must be with their men. He encouraged his soldiers to never give up and keep fighting, because the residents solely depend on them for their safety and security. They were able to liberate the city of Solenzo. For the captain, consolidating his success is what matters the most, meaning they must keep watch and remain vigilant, because the enemies can come back. Now, who are the enemies? Who are the enemies that the president of Burkina Faso is on the front lines fighting against? The enemies are the Islamic Jihadists. And for whatever reason, I've never seen black people become so passionate the way they are passionate about the Palestinian struggle. But like I said, maybe I didn't get the memo. I was absent that day. I was sick that day. I didn't show up that day when they told the class that apparently black men and Arab men, we are geopolitical allies. I didn't know. I was absent that day. But it goes back to what Dr. Umar had said. Everybody got their Palestinian flags out. But just a couple months ago, when it was like 60 people that got smoked by Islamic Jihadists in Mali, nobody said a word. Nobody said a word about that. A headline didn't even come out on the mainstream media. But now, because the mainstream media got the news cycle going bananas, oh, Israel, Palestine, Israel, Palestine. Now everybody, oh, we standing with Palestine. We standing with Palestine. Meanwhile, you got black men on the front lines really getting it in for real, really taking up arms for real. But for whatever reason, that does not invoke the same passion from you. That does not invoke the same reaction from you. You know, it is what it is, man. You understand with some Arabs, but the black man on the front lines, you won't even give him half of that same energy, half of the same visibility, half of the same promotion. But you want to stand and kiss the ass of the Arab. Yo, listen, man, y'all out y'all goddamn by, man. Tap dancing for a goddamn dusty motherfucker. Let's be for real. I could understand other Islamic Arab nations standing in solidarity with Palestine as Arab brothers. I could understand that. But as black men of African descent, I just could never understand. I could halfway understand the brothers who are Islamic, like the brothers who are Muslim. I could halfway understand that. But the brothers who not even Muslim, like you just a regular black man from Detroit and you standing with Palestine. Like, brother, I could halfway understand the brothers who are Muslim. But if you just a regular black man from Brooklyn and you standing in solidarity with Arabs who treat you as less than human in their own countries and sometimes even in your own countries, brother, y'all gotta relax, man. Y'all gotta relax, man. Y'all gotta relax. I've never seen so many Palestine flags on social media ever in my life. But I did not see this many Burkina Faso flags. I never seen any Mali flags. I've never seen any Niger flags. I barely see those flags all over social media, man. I'm seeing black folks out here losing their jobs because they want to stand with the Palestinians, brother. I'm seeing folks losing Ivy League positions. I'm seeing folks destroying their entire livelihoods trying to stand in solidarity with Arabs. But they would never do it for their fellow black person. I promise you they would. I promise you on everything I love, they would never do it for their fellow black person. Their fellow black person couldn't even get 30% of that love and admiration. But they'll tap dance for anybody who's not black, bro. Anybody who's not black, they on the front lines, tap dancing, twerking, pop locking, and dropping, making it busted open on the pole, man. It's ridiculous what's going on with our people, bro. It's ridiculous the mentality our people got, man. But for anybody who follows my channel, you already know I've never been one for the trendy news cycle. I've never been one trying to chase the big headlines. I did like 30 videos talking about the conflict between France and Niger when the military in Niger overthrew the government, the Western-backed government. I did like 30 videos on that. And that shit didn't really get that many views like that. But that was a topic that I was passionate about because that's my people, man. That's my folks. And don't even talk to me about, oh, it's because we're standing with the women and the children. Because when the women and the children in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger had to go through and live through those economic sanctions placed on them by the West and the European Union and the UN and everybody else, I wasn't hearing nobody talk about the African women and the African children. But now you want to talk about the children. We standing with the children. It's the women and the children that we talking. We love the women and the children. You don't even love your own women and your children. Fuck out of my face, bro. Fuck out of my face. I promise you I'm not trying to hear that shit. And like I said, we have a very one-sided relationship with other cultures because you'll hear people say that we got to stand with the Arabs in Palestine because they're fighting against the Western powers or something like that. But were the Arabs in Palestine, were the Arabs anywhere in the Arab world standing in solidarity with the black Africans when they were going through their diplomatic events against the Western powers during the past 72 months? Did any of the Arabs in the Arab world try to form a line of communication between them and the Islamic Jihadists to tell them, please stop destroying the Africans over in those nations? Please stop massacring the Africans in those nations. Was there ever some type of negotiation, some type of solidarity, some type of movement to alleviate the sufferings of the Africans living in the Sahel? No, there was never any type of solidarity. It's only one way solidarity, one way ass kissing, one way tap dancing, one way twerking and butt kissing. You standing in solidarity with the Arab. Meanwhile, the Arab is looking the other way when his intellectual descendants come and massacre you in the name of jihad. You standing in solidarity with the Arab, but your own people get treated as less than dirt whenever you come to their countries. And for those of y'all who've been following my channel, I dropped a video a couple weeks ago entitled Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Create the Alliance for Sahelian States. Pan-Africanism 101. And in that video, we spoke about how those three nations who recently had coups where they overthrew their Western-backed governments, they signed a military and economic defense agreement to come to each other's aid in case of any foreign invasion, any foreign attack. Basically, if you touch one of us, you touch all of us. And for every black person who is so passionate about Palestine because they talking about revolution and fighting their power, well, we have two African head of state who are under the age of 40, who have risen to power by the force of arms, who have driven the French out of their nation, who have banned the French media, have ejected the French military, kicked out the French ambassador, have canceled all agreements with the French government. But for whatever reason, the Arab struggle in the Middle East is bringing out more energy and emotion and passion from our people than black men in West Africa, black men in Africa doing what y'all claim y'all want them to do. You want black men to fight for their people, die for their people, take up arms for their people? Well, they're doing it and y'all don't give a fuck. They're doing it and y'all don't give a fuck. Y'all too busy focused on the Arabs in the Middle East. So the black man in Africa, unfortunately, he can't get enough camera time. I get it. But I'm going to give the camera time to my brothers. I'm going to give the love and solidarity to my brothers. But it's crazy, man. Could you believe if you are a black man right now in the Sahel fighting against the Islamic Jihadists, and you look on social media, you look on the TV, and you see black people across the world crying and boo-hooing, oh, the Arabs in Palestine, the Arabs in Palestine, I stand with Palestine. And you see Floyd Mayweather sending a whole private jet to Israel talking about, I stand with the Israelis, I stand with the Israelis. And then, yo, bro, and then meanwhile, you got black men really on the front lines, and they can't even get a tweet, bro. They can't even get an Instagram caption. They can't even get a hashtag or nothing. They can't even get, they can't even get a headline in the mainstream media. But for whatever reason, we've got to stand with Palestine, our Arab brothers in Palestine. Oh my God. Anyways, man, let's take a look at some of the reactions on social media behind Captain Ibrahim Traore on the front lines with it. Let's get into it. Take a look up on the screen. This person said, only in the African continent does a standing president show up on the front lines, armed to the teeth and ready to rumble. Hey, man, listen, that archetype is very familiar to black men. That warrior king archetype, the head of state that will hop on the front lines and lead the troops in the battle. Black men have been doing that for centuries, bro. The warrior king archetype, that is in our blood, bro. That is in our blood, man. That is in our blood. I'm telling you, all these folks that want to talk about they standing with the Arabs, they should be going 10 times more bananas for Captain Ibrahim Traore on the front lines with it, bro. On the front line. You see, the president of Palestine, he ain't on no fucking front lines. Where the fuck is he at? He is somewhere in a goddamn hotel not doing shit. So y'all want to stand with the Arabs in Palestine. Bro, y'all are a joke. Neferkar Dessalines is telling you right now, if you are a black man tap dancing for the Arabs and you're not going 10 times harder for your brothers in Africa, you are a joke. Now let's continue. This person said, Captain Ibrahim Traore should stop going to the front lines. The Western world foot soldiers can come especially for him with their drones. He's too precious to the African youth. Now, that is a reality. That is a reality. If, as a head of state, you go to the front lines, there's a very high likelihood that you will not make it back. And I believe that that's actually what happened to the president of Chad a couple years ago, actually. I believe his name was Idris Deby, if I'm not mistaken. He was fighting against some rebels out of his country. And as the head of state, he hopped on the front lines to fight against the rebellion. And he lost his life. And that's a reality. But as a warrior king, that warrior king archetype, that is something that you are ready for. You understand that. Yeah, as a warrior king, I should be ready to die for the nation. That's part of being the warrior king. And it's not only the head of state of Burkina Faso, the president of Mali as well. He also embodies the warrior king archetype because he himself also be on the front lines fighting against the Islamic Jihadists as well. Yeah, both of them be on the front lines going in, getting it in. So, Mali and Burkina Faso, I love them boys out there, man. I got big love for them boys out there, man. And I dropped a video a few weeks ago entitled, take a look up on the screen. There was a failed coup attempt in Burkina Faso where some officers in the military tried to overthrow the government. They failed. Take a look up on the screen. Burkina Faso's military rulers say a coup attempt was foiled and the plotters were arrested. The military prosecutor says 4 people were arrested and 2 on the run following reports that a coup attempt was thwarted by the security services. Take a look up on the screen. A fugitive army commander has been killed in Burkina Faso. Let's jump into the article. Burkina Faso's security forces have killed a fugitive commander wanted for his role in last month's reported coup attempt. A report says that he has been on the run after being summoned by the military prosecutor for questioning. And I believe what happened in his case was he was one of the 2 people that went on the run. And when the military caught up with him at his house, he opened fire. There was like a shootout at his house, and the military, he opened fire, the military opened fire, and they smoked him. They smoked him. And I told you a similar situation happened when the president of Mali was stabbed in church, right? Somebody walked up on him trying to stab him in church. That was an assassination attempt. And the perpetrator in that case also mysteriously passed away a few days later. So yeah, as you can see, them black men over there, they're running a tight ship, man. They're running a tight ship, and you got to. When you're going up against these type of enemies, the Western powers, the Islamic militant jihadists, you got to run a tight ship. You got to have your security on point. and you got to take no prisoners. You got to stomp on heads for real. You got to crush the adversary. But before we get out of here, man, I want to talk about the warrior king archetype. The warrior king archetype, man. The greatest black male archetype to ever exist. The most famous black male archetype to ever exist. And that's my favorite black male archetype because it combines the two traits that I believe that all black men should embody, which is courage and intelligence. You cannot be an effective warrior king if you are not courageous and if you are not intelligent. And all of the legendary black male historical figures that I admire the most, they all embodied the warrior king archetype. And that's why you see, even in the Western Hemisphere, the greatest warrior kings that have ever existed in the Western Hemisphere, they were black men. They were black men. Why? Because they came from the continent of the warrior kings. That's how you had a Dessalines come out in the Western Hemisphere, because he came from the continent of the warrior kings. That's how you had a Christoph emerge in the Western Hemisphere, because he came from the continent of the warrior kings. The same continent that gave us Shaka Zulu, Sundiata Keita, Sunny Ali, Aski Muhammad the Great, Salomon Toure, Idris Aluma, King Benazin. Listen, bro, the list goes on and on. The list goes on and on. Now, unfortunately, because our good brothers are never going to get the mainstream spotlight as maybe the Arabs in the Middle East. So what happens is our people will gravitate to the Arabs in the Middle East more than they will gravitate to what's happening in their own nations, in their own countries, in their own geopolitical situation. They want to hold hands with the Arabs, while the Islamic Jihadists in the Sahel are smoking us for dinner. And when you travel to these Arab countries, as a black man, as a black woman, as an African man, as an African woman, you get treated like garbage. But you want to hold hands with the Arabs. Well, I'm going to hold hands with the black man. You know, like I told you, I'm going to hold hands with my people, man. Like Dr. Umar Johnson said, when it comes to these other folks, you want to hold hands and tap, dance, and twerk. But when it comes to your own folks, the same energy is never reserved. So I never understand it, but I've become accustomed to it. But anyways, man, it's your boy Never Called Dessalines back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. No, they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Paying for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This shit is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with friends, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.